Portal, often considered one of the most revolutionary games of all time, was actually just filler. It originally came out on this little game package, you might have heard of it, it's called the Orange Box, containing Half-Life 2 and Team Fortress 2. Everyone made Portal the standout of this collection for it's not quite done like this before gameplay, as well as its funny writing and lonely feeling environments. Originally released in 2007, this game was the spiritual successor of a game called Narbacular Drop, made by a few kids from the DigiPen Institute of Game Design. After our Lord and Savior Gabe Newell saw this game, he pretty much immediately hired the developers onto Valve, and they went on to develop Portal. So for a Valentine's Day special, we're going to take a deep look at the entirety of this game, Portal. And in case you don't understand the point, I love this game, and I'm reviewing it on Valentine's Day. Yeah, you see what I did there? We're taking a look at this game from beginning to end, and we are looking at the standard Steam release. I was going to record it through the Orange Box on Xbox 360, but I would have to get used to the controls again, and also it just looks better on PC, so I'll just stick with keyboard and mouse. And before we begin, we're just gonna go through an overall spoiler-free review of the game before we go super in depth. So, here we go! So this is the part of the video where I don't go deep into the game and I just give my general non-spoilery thoughts first. You are Chell, a test subject in the Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center, which is a series of human tests involving portals guided by a rogue AI.
Oh dear, I've said too much.
Portal is a game where you're given an assortment of levels to complete with the gimmick of moving around and taking things to different places with portals using a portal gun. And no, not the portal gun from Rick and Morty. The physics and mechanics of the game is a good part of why the game is very fun. For example, there's a few puzzles using momentum, where you place one portal somewhere and another portal in like a pit or something, and when you fall in, you'll get launched out of the other portal. You can even use this to complete levels in ways that weren't even intentional. So it's like a first-person shooter, except instead of bullet holes, they're wormholes. Oh, speaking of which, this is something that has always confused me. What is this crosshair? I won't be comparing this game to the sequel too much throughout this review, but Portal 2 handled the crosshairs a lot better. In Portal 2, there's an oval around the center of your screen. One side is blue and the other is orange. Okay, so let's say in the second game, you shoot a portal onto a portal surface and it opens. The color portal that you just shot now fills up in the crosshairs, and same with the other portal. However, in this first game, the outlines fill up when you look at a portal surface, and when you open a portal, a little circle appears on the corner, but then when you shoot another portal, the other circle disappears and it appears on the other color. It's very confusing, and honestly, I have no idea what they were trying to go with. Oh wait, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I gotta talk about portal surfaces. Not every surface in the game is portalable. You can only put portals on white surfaces or orange surfaces. It's never really explained what a portal surface is, so we just assumed that it's a flat, white, kind of coarse, cementy looking surface. So pretty much any surface in the game that's not brown. Also, you can't put them on moving surfaces, which doesn't really make sense considering we're always moving on the Earth and around the solar system. But whatever, I can deal with it. Although, I don't really see a point. We also have hazards you have to avoid. But first, I'll mention something that cannot kill you. Falling. If you look at yourself anywhere in the game, you can see these weird things on your legs, which apparently stops them from snapping right off whenever you fall from a high distance. However, there's lots of things in this game that can kill you. For example, the goo, which honestly just kind of looks like dirty water. Also, near the end of the game, there's these things called sentry turrets, or just turrets. If you go in front of them, they constantly shoot you until you die. Also, just to let you know, when you die, you don't respawn until you press a button, which I find kind of strange. There's also the energy pellet. If you touch it, you die. And that leads me on to the level mechanics. There's big and small buttons that can activate doors or what have you. Basically, they send a signal. However, the bigger buttons can be pressed for longer if you put a cube on it. Cubes are tools that you can use to block enemy fire, place on buttons, and to jump on. There's also the energy pellets again. If you can make them reach their little containment unit, they can activate and send a signal to a door or a platform or whatever. There's more, but that would go into spoiler territory, so if you don't care about that stuff, then wait till later on in the video. The graphics are next on my mind, and if you're playing on PC with all those settings jacked up as high as possible, ooh, man, they look nice. Like I said earlier, this game was developed mainly by the people who worked on Arbacular Drop, and that's a team of 7 people. So what they did is use the fact that they're working at Valve to their advantage and worked with the Half-Life 2 engine and assets. That made everything look sterile and the same throughout the whole game, which is kind of the purpose, because they want to convey a bland testing area that just goes on and on with no variety. Everything is either white or an orange-brownish color. The robotic and mechanic parts of this game are also modeled well, yet are still kept simplistic for the sake of the 7 people working on this game. However, there are some parts where it's not too good and maybe a little bit simplistic. No spoilers, but this robot is actually in the game. Yeah, it looks pretty bad. And also, not that the final product looks bad, but the original trailer looks way better than the final game. Also, you can tell that human modeling wasn't exactly their strong suit. I'll get more into other examples of blah visuals later on in the review, after the spoiler warning. The music, on the other hand, is very, very good, and not really anything I've ever heard in a game before. It either has a depressing, lonely feeling to it during some tests, a techno-type theme during the intense scenes, or this interesting style of music that is kind of a combination of both styles found in other places throughout the game. I've never heard a soundtrack quite like it, not even in the sequel, and it's one of the only things I can say that the first game does better than the second. I'll go back into music and how it's used in the game later as well. My favorite track personally is the Self-Esteem Fund. It gives such a lonely feeling, it fits the environment super well, and it's also just a really good song in general. There's also the credits music. Not to spoil anything, but Still Alive is very good. You can even listen to a jazzy rendition of it on many radios throughout the game. Finally, we have the story, which is standard. It's basically, you're a test subject. Complete the tests. We're watching you. That's how much I can say without spoiling the whole game. Alright, now that I'm all done with that, I'm going to go full-on in-depth into the game now. Go full analysis mode. So if you don't want the whole game spoiled for you, then go away. Preferably the Steam to buy this game and play it. It's not too expensive and it only takes a few hours to beat. You can beat it in an afternoon even if you're not skilled with the game. Okay, you guys gone? Alright, here we go. It's time to go full nerd mode. Okay, we start a new game and we seem to be waking up and getting out of this suspended animation chamber into a rather small glass room encased inside of a bigger white room. There's a countdown timer, a display screen telling you that this is test 0, and an assortment of random stuff to play with as the radio plays a jazzy version of Still Alive. Then we get some voiceover coming out of some sort of speaker.
Hello, and again, welcome to the Aperture Science Computer Aided Enrichment Center. We hope your brief detention in the relaxation vault has been a pleasant one. Your specimen has been processed, and we are now ready to begin the test proper.
She tells you about how you're a test subject and introduces the idea of what you'll be doing. She glitches up before giving out a warning and then opens up a portal in front of you. I like how the portal is handled. It doesn't matter which portal you're actually looking through, you can always see yourself. and that you have these stupid little foot thingies. You can also see how weird you look whenever you pick something up. And when you walk through the portal, you have to go around a little glass box you're just confined to for the first minute of the game. You can also see this observation room and some cameras. And along with the voice commenting on you throughout the whole game, it gives you a feeling that you're being watched. Yet because you're never actually seeing anyone, you also feel alone, as the only person you ever see is yourself. You keep going until you reach this other room with a cube dispenser and a big button. It's pretty obvious what you do now. Big block goes on big button. After another quip from the voice above, who by the way is named GLaDOS, the genetic life form and disk operating system, you are educated on what a fizzle screen is, or as GLaDOS puts it, the material emancipation grill. You are also presented with an elevator. If you try to bring anything with you, like for me this radio, you find out that you can't take anything to the next test chamber, as it always fizzles out before you go into the elevator. This is, in the words of GLaDOS, to prevent people from smuggling test objects into other test chambers, making sure that the stuff that's required for that test and that test only stays in that test. Then you enter the elevator and the chamber is over. Okay, yes, I realized that I just wrote an essay for test 0 of Portal, but the reason I did is because it introduces so many mechanics super subtly. So let's see how it builds on them as we move on. This is the first officially counted test, and it's the first test to actually use portals as a means of puzzle solving. First, you drop down into this room with glass surrounding your sides and in front of you. Behind you is a constantly changing portal. By the time you turn around and look at it, it's showing a big button for a cube to be placed on. And then it shows the exit door, telling you that that's your way out. Then it opens to the cube, telling you, there's a cube, now go get it on that button. This is the whole test, and it's basically just reinforcing the fact that big cube goes on big button. And while all of this is happening, we get more great lines from GLaDOS.
Perfect. Please move quickly to the chamber lock, as the effects of prolonged exposure to the button are not part of this test.
We are finally introduced to the handheld portal device in this more simple test. When you enter the test, you are unable to proceed, as the door is closed. GLaDOS is also talking about teeth and fizzlers.
Please be advised that a noticeable taste of blood is not part of any test protocol, but is an unintended side effect of the Aperture Science Material Emancipation Grill, which may, in semi-rare cases, emancipate dental fillings, crowns, tooth enamel, and teeth.
However, while all this is happening, you can look out this window and see the portal gun shooting blue portals around the room, as well as this orange portal on another wall. Then when the door opens for you, the portal gun's rotation is at just the right moment to shoot a portal for you to go in. Then when you go through the orange portal and jump down to get the gun, there's no way to get out without the use of the gun, quickly teaching you how the portal gun works. It also helps that the majority of walls in this room are portal surfaces, giving you a better grasp at how the portal gun works. And when you're all done with the test and go over to the elevator, you find out that the gun doesn't get fizzled when you go through the fizzler. Test 3 teaches you about how blue and orange portals work, using both the blue portal and orange portal as entrances. Up till now, you've only really been using the blue portal as an entrance and the orange portal as an exit. However, that's not entirely true, as Test 0 and 1 actually have you entering through orange portals. So this test teaches you that both colors are actually entrances and exits. This is probably one of the most important moments of the game, as it teaches you basic functions of the portals. Yet, whenever I see anyone play this game for the first time, it's not their first immediate thought to just go through the other portal. Also, this test features the first laugh out loud moment I had while playing.
Well done. Remember, the Aperture Science Bring Your Daughter to Work Day is the perfect time to have her tested.
Test number 4 is another cube on the button test, but with the added feature of using your own portal placement. You find the cube in this ditch, and it requires you to either go down to that ditch and retrieve the cube yourself, or just shoot a portal underneath the cube. And as this is the first cube test with your own portal making, they put this glass pane here as so players won't attempt to solve it in their own way, despite the fact that it wouldn't work like that. As of now, the cube tests are getting slightly more advanced, and that is continued with the next test, test number 5. It's a more advanced version of the puzzle with 2 cubes and 2 buttons. What you have to do in this test is use a blue portal to retrieve this cube, and then you'll appear on one of the high platforms. So you put the cube on the button, and then use the blue portal to get back up on that raised platform. Then shoot a portal over to the other raised platform, and then retrieve that cube and put it on its button. Also, this puzzle is the first one you can get stuck in. If you shoot a portal in a door that opens up, then shut the door, stack these cubes up, and get on the platform, duck down, pick up a cube, and then put the cube through the portal without going in it, boom, the door opens, and now you can take the cubes with you. Also, if you do this, there's an auditory glitch.
You're not a good person. You know that, right?
Anyway, you go through the door, and when you shoot a portal in front of you, you can see yourself again.
Cool, huh?
Anyway, you jump down onto this pane of glass and proceed to the exit. This is our first test with the energy pellet. It's another standard short test, just subtly telling you that power ball goes in containment thingy, with the orange portal automatically being placed for you, and the only requirements from you being to put the blue portal on this glowing spot on the roof. Also, this is the first level where you can actually die, as the energy pellets can kill you if you touch it. Not everyone has died here. I highly doubt any beginners even die here. I just thought I would mention it. It's a relatively simple puzzle that they put here for the purpose of educating you on how energy pellets work. And also, I had another laugh out loud moment here.
Unbelievable. You
Subject name here.
must be the pride of.
Subject hometown here.
Test 7 is more of the same energy pellet tests, just on a bigger scale. But the orange portal isn't placed in front of the energy pellet shooter like last time. So you yourself have to aim and shoot the portal at the right place for the energy pellet to go where you want. Then you have the portal above this moving platform, jump onto the moving platform, and then head over to the elevator. Here's the first test that I assume many beginners died in, as it's the first test with goo, which is pretty obviously a hazard. This is another energy pellet test chamber, but you have to shoot from the moving platform above the goo instead of moving wherever you want and shooting the portals with ease. First, what you have to do is make sure that the energy pellet goes onto the wall and bounces off. Then what you have to do after that is shoot another portal for it to land into the containment unit. It's not that much harder from the other tests, but it is an acceleration of difficulty from the last few tests. Test 9 is okay. It teaches you that you can destroy cubes as much as you want and they'll always come back through this tube thing. And it also teaches you that you can use portals to get around places you may not have been able to go without portals. It also might tell new players that the portal gun erases portals when it goes through a fizzler. However, I don't understand why this couldn't be test 6, considering test 5 was another cube puzzle and then test 6 was an energy pellet puzzle. Maybe put this test in test 6 and then make test 7 the first energy pellet puzzle. Also, this test has something that doesn't really work about it. This hole is not meant for you to shove the cube in. You have to shoot a portal over to the other part of the room and then take the cube with you through the portal behind you and then place it on the button. I mention that because this hole is just big enough for you to fit the cube in, and it's even featured in the trailer, but that's not the way you're supposed to do it, or at least I'm assuming you're not supposed to do it. It's the much harder solution. And also, I'll just bring this up now, you can put portals underneath doors and kind of skip segments of the puzzle with it, which is kind of an oversight on the game design. I guess Gladys isn't going too far when she says that this test is pretty broken.
The Enrichment Center regrets to inform you that this next test is impossible. Make no attempt to solve it. The Enrichment Center apologizes for this clearly broken test chamber.
It's not that this is a bad test, it just has more problems than is the norm for this game. Alright, we're halfway through the test with test 10, and it's here when we come across a new game mechanic. Momentum. It starts with a smaller test, where you just need to go through a blue portal and land on the platform because the orange portal is placed above the platform you need to get on top of. In the next room, it's kind of the same thing, but you have to jump down a pit and shoot a portal to launch yourself to the other side, teaching you how momentum works in this game. If you fall down a pit, the acceleration that you use to fall down that pit carries over through the portal, thus launching yourself to the other side. Then, in the next room, you have to put the portal on the wall yourself. You also need to jump down a high distance into this orange portal, and with that, you reuse what you just learned about momentum and portals. And in case you aren't getting how this works, GLaDOS is telling you what to do.
Momentum, a function of mass and velocity, is conserved between portals. In layman's terms, speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out.
When you land on this platform you just launched yourself to, the surface moves forward so you can launch yourself to the exit. And you're higher up than you were on the previous floor you jumped off of. So with that, you place a portal on the wall and jump through the other portal to finish the test. Congratulations, you know how momentum works. The next test, oddly enough, isn't a momentum-based test. It's instead another energy pellet puzzle, and this time it has timing added. I'll go into why I think this test is not a momentum-based test in a moment. For now, let's go over this chamber. This is the test chamber where you upgrade the gun to shoot both portal types, and it starts similar to the last time you did this. We're in a room with a big window, and you can see the portal gun firing and opening orange portals around the room with a certain timing, and then you see you can only leave the room with your own portal. When you shoot your portal and look through it, it'll most likely be above goo, so you have to wait until the portal is opened above a platform, and there's only one. On that platform you can see a small button. When you push the button, you see the door on the wall across from you open up. Instinctively you shoot a portal in there and go back into the orange portal behind you to enter the room, and you see an energy pellet. Then you put it all together, as there's an energy containment unit in that big room you were just in. So you shoot a blue portal on the wall, and the pellet goes through into the big room you were just in. And once the orange portal is at the right place, the pellet will reach the containment unit. Then the platform will start moving, and when the orange portal reaches the correct spot, you can jump on the moving platform and then make your way to the new and improved portal gun. And now you can shoot both portals. Then a button raises itself up, which opens another door on the wall across from you for you to go in. You have to shoot a portal in there though, and get back onto the moving platform to shoot the opposite color of portal to exit the room. It immediately teaches you how to use both portals to your convenience. And another cool thing about this test is when you make it out of the death room and into the victory room that leads to the elevator, the room is almost entirely covered in portal surfaces. So you can use this room to experiment with your new portal gun free from danger. Like for example, you can make an infinite hallway, or put a portal above you and below you and fall infinitely. Also, GLaDOS has another line in here that was another laugh out loud moment for me.
The Enrichment Center promises to always provide a safe testing environment. In dangerous testing environments, the Enrichment Center promises to always provide useful advice. For instance, the floor here will kill you. Try to avoid it. The device has been modified so that it can now manufacture 2 linked portals at once. As part of an optional test protocol, we are pleased to present an amusing fact. The device is now more valuable than the organs and combined incomes of everyone in
Subject hometown here.
Test number 12 is another momentum-based test chamber. When I first started writing this out and thinking very deeply about this, I thought this was odd to have a test about momentum, teaching the player how it works, and then we forget about that for another pellet puzzle, and then after that we get to another momentum puzzle. Why is this? Well, I realized something. In the first momentum test, you can only make 1 portal, but in the second momentum test, you can make all 2 portals. That's why it was important to have a seemingly random test in the middle, so we could transition the player to having 2 portals rather than 1. So now that you have both portals, you have to place 1 on the surface you see above you, and 1 in the pit below. The game is pretty much telling you you're on your own as of Chamber 12. There's no new mechanics to learn as of now, and you have both portals. That's another reason why I think there's a split between puzzles here. Anyway, once you make it up the platforms, you reach a floor with a button, and you see one of the portal surfaces slant itself. It does that so you can launch yourself to another platform you can see. This platform has a cube and the exit on it, so you obviously know what you have to do here. Grab the cube, put it back on the button, get back up there, and get out the door. You're now using the skills you've learned throughout the past 12 tests, if you count test 0, on your own. Test 13 is another example of you not being handheld anymore. This is another cube on button test chamber, but there's 2 buttons like in test 5. But that's not all though, they're also on raised platforms, and to get one of the cubes, or at least a cube that beginners would get, you need to bring the energy pellet that's also in the room to the containment thingy. And the reason you do that is so you can get the platform to move under the portal surface to get onto the platform to get the cube and put it on the button. So you have the get cube on button mechanic while also having the get energy to containment thingy mechanic. Plus, at the beginning of this level, you need to put a cube on a button to even get into the main room of this test chamber, and then bring that cube with you to the bigger room. And later on, when you're more skilled, you can even do this puzzle without the other cube. I managed to do it with only 4 portals and under 19 seconds. Oh yeah, I'll come back to the bonus maps later. Anyway, they're now combining the puzzle elements that used to be by themselves together. Like I said, this is another test that doesn't teach you anything, but rather builds on what you know from the other puzzle elements you've come to learn and putting them together, now that you have an idea of how they work. And that's the same with Test 14. Here's another example of a test combining elements of previous puzzles together now that you know how they work. It's another cube on button puzzle with momentum being present in an energy pellet part. First, you have to put a cube on a button to open a closed door. So you go up these stairs and find it right there on this platform. And to get it, you need to launch yourself to the platform it's on. Then you see that the stairs have descended. So because of that, you can now jump down into a portal and launch yourself onto the platform to get the cube. Then you place the cube on the button and move on to this other room with the energy pellet. You can also do platforming here, but I usually do it without the platforming with the use of my portals. Then you get the energy pellet back up to the place upstairs, and with that, the platform leading to the exit lowers and you can move on. Or, you know, you can just launch yourself onto the platform or skip the whole puzzle, f*** it. Test 15 is when the tests start becoming pretty long. This test chamber is about building on the momentum and energy pellet mechanics. We start off this test with a momentum puzzle to get to the other side of this room, which is blocked by a sheet of glass. This acts as first of many smaller puzzles in this big one. Once you get to the other side, you go to the other room, which is a more complicated than normal energy pellet puzzle. There are 2 fizzlers dividing parts of the room, so this puzzle requires you to get the pellet to a certain place so it can go through a portal, then keep doing that until the platform lowers. Then you move on to a more advanced momentum puzzle where you have to jump down this pit after you shoot a portal on the wall. Then after you launch out of the wall, shoot another portal on the floor to get enough momentum to launch across the room through the fizzler to the other room. Then you have to launch yourself again in the same way to this room with 2 extended panels. In this room, you have to figure out another energy pellet puzzle by making sure the energy pellet bounces into a portal out of another portal back into the containment unit in the other room. And then when you get out of that room, you realize that there's some moving platforms in this hallway. However, it's going the wrong way, so you have to use the hallway walls, which have portal surfaces on them, to get to the final room, which is another energy pellet puzzle. At first, this seems weird to be here, but really it's teaching you how to maneuver with portals and moving platforms, which will be important later. It's not really a mechanic, it's just teaching you a tip for the last test. Anyway, back to the final energy pellet puzzle. This one has timing involved. There's 2 buttons, each on opposite sides of the room. So what you have to do is put portals on each of these rooms and press the buttons in quick succession so the door for the containment thingy opens. Then you have to shoot a portal on the floor and on the wall opposite of the containment thingy. And when the energy pellet reaches the containment thingy, the platform letting you out of here lowers and you can leave. Or you can just use momentum to launch yourself up to the platform, f*** it. Hey, isn't it the same thing I said last test? New game mechanics. It's been too long. And by that I mean it's been a whole 15 minutes. Because the regular test 16 we were going to play is unavailable, Gladys takes us to a
live fire course designed for military androids.
I already explained what turrets were at the beginning of this video. Also near the end of the game, there's these things called sentry turrets, or just turrets. If you go in front of them, they constantly shoot you until you die. So I'm just gonna go into this test. So when you enter the room, you see some turrets behind some bulletproof glass, evident by the fact that they can't shoot through it. So now you know that going in front of turrets is not a good idea, as you'd get shot. Luckily, the first turret is facing away from you, so you can easily pick it up, or knock it over. It is here that you realize that they disable themselves when knocked over. So to defeat a turret, you just have to knock them over. The second turret you encounter is facing towards you, so to defeat him, you need to approach him from behind with a portal. Then there's a turret that you can either portal yourself past or defeat yourself. When you get past them, you come across something rather interesting. This is a Ratman den. However, you would not know that without outside knowledge. Now, these don't serve any purpose to gameplay, but it does add to the story, which by this point has been fairly minimal. So I'll get back to that later. Oh, and at this point, you're given 2 cubes to defeat the next 2 turrets. What you have to do is you have to shoot your portal above these X's and then dump cubes on top of them to knock them over. Then there's a room after that with 2 more turrets, both facing different ends of the room. You take care of them by blocking their fire with a cube and then knocking them over. After that, you might notice this room with a malfunctioning tube thing. I guess it's helped for the beginner player to take care of this next big room full of turrets. I tend to tackle this room in many ways, as there's multiple solutions. You can knock over the turrets with the cubes, you can portal underneath them and cause them to fall. There's many different ways of tackling this room. Nonetheless, you have to take care of all 3 turrets and then put the cube on the big button in the middle. When you bring the cube to the button, opening the door, it reveals another turret, so you quickly evade and get yourself into the room he's in. Take out the turret, and then there's 1 more turret before the level ends. It's not even facing any useful directions. It's like a level designer just put it there for the hell of it. Then after that, the test ends, and you're now a professional turret avoider. And also, this part is probably the loudest I've laughed when I've played this game.
Well done, Android. The Enrichment Center once again reminds you that Android Hell is a real place where you will be sent at the first sign of defiance.
Oh boy, it's the level with the companion cube, the plastic looking box that everyone got attached to. This level is very interesting. It even had an interesting history. It's a level consisting of a lot of mini puzzles that you have to solve with the help of this cube. However, playtesters would always forget the cube because it was just a cube. So the developers added hearts to it so that the playtesters would get attached to it. And then at the end of the level, they added the incineration aspect to make GLaDOS look super duper evil, and also to teach you about the final boss mechanics. Whoa. Okay, I'm getting a bit ahead of myself here. Okay, so we get this companion cube handed to us, and we need it to solve many small puzzles. The first one requires you to use the cube as stairs and to take them up with you. The second is you holding the cube in front of you to block the energy pellet fire. The third is using the cube to redirect this other energy pellet to this containment thingy. And then after you realize there's another Ratman den, you check that shit out. This one is weird. It has companion cubes all over these people's heads. Also, this calendar is confusing. Why would you put a whole bunch of scientists in bikinis on a calendar? Okay, anyway, the next puzzle is getting one of these energy pellets to this pit area over here, and to this containment unit behind this door with the help of the cube. And the third puzzle is just bouncing this pellet over to this containment unit, and it doesn't really require the cube really. Also, I guess I didn't really need to describe these puzzles in any numerical order, as you can do them in any order you want. Then you do a little bit of platforming, which is fine. The jumps in this game are really small, so you just barely have enough space to jump over these platforms. And then you get to the infamous part where you have to open up the incinerator and burn your best friend alive. And apparently doing that commits fratricide, according to the achievement list. What the hell? I love the little messed up details the developers gave, like the incineration being at time and requiring you to be fast when you burn the cube. And also, I really like this line after you burn the cube.
You euthanized your faithful companion cube more quickly than any test subject on record. Congratulations.
I really like this level. This is, I think, the peak of the cube mechanic in this game, and how it also builds on the energy pellet mechanic. Also, there's windows all over the test to show the button you're supposed to get the cube onto. However, you can't quite see where it's leading to. I love that little detail. Although, because of it, there is an exploit you can do when speedrunning. Test 18 is probably the longest test in the whole game, and before we begin, I just wanted to mention a little mistake.
The experiment is nearing its conclusion. The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be...
But, if I pause here and rewind back to the beginning of this little speech with subtitles, you can see something slightly different.
The experiment is nearing its conclusion. The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked, and then there will be
I guess that part was supposed to be garbled. Anyway, we first start with kind of platforming momentum puzzles to get to these higher platforms, but not before checking out another strange Ratman den, which kind of just looks similar to the one in Test 16. Anyway, we get to the top of all these platforms, and we can see a button within its cube, and a closed door. So we enter this room here with the help of this extending panel, and we are faced with more turrets and a rotating energy pellet firer. We also see a cube in the distance. What you need to do is use this platform to get over to that button, so the panel opens up again so we can launch ourselves to that cube. However, to do that, we need to use the energy pellets to knock down all the turrets so we don't get shot while using the platform. But the platform isn't moving, so we need to open this door, which holds the containment thingy, and then send the pellet over. But not before killing all the turrets, or else we would have no way of killing the turrets otherwise, without a lot of effort being put into it. So after you kill all the turrets, you send over the energy pellet, and then you redirect the portals to this panel right here that's close to the button. Then quickly press the button to open the door that leads to the containment thingy, so the energy pellet can go into the containment thingy. And then the moving platform starts moving. However, you will most likely miss it, so you have to wait for it to come back. And then you start going on the moving platform and landing in this area with the button. You press the button to extend the panel, and then you use that panel to get back to that area you were just in. And in that area you were just in, keep the portal on the slanted panel, and then jump down into the goo, because there's actually a portal surface down here, and then that causes you to launch yourself all the way to the cube. So you pick up the cube and then take the cube back to the beginning, but then you have to ride the moving platform back to the button so you can get out of this place, so you can put the cube on the button and go to the next area. Oh boy, we're not even done with the test yet, and we've already used all 4 of the mechanics that have been taught to us. Cube retrieval, energy pellets, avoiding turrets, and momentum, all in the exact same area. This might sound weird considering it's not the final puzzle, but it's kind of the final puzzle. Well, sort of. Anyway, once you get that cube onto the button, you end up in this last area, where you have to fire yourself out of these platforms, using momentum to launch yourself high enough so you can put a portal on the platform, so you can launch yourself high enough again to put a portal on another platform, and then rinse and repeat until you're at the elevator and ending this big test. Oh boy! Finally, kind of, we end with test chamber 19. And if you think it's weird that we're ending off on test 19, don't forget the first test at the beginning that was called test 0. This is a simpler test. We start with getting another energy pellet to its containment thingy that gets this platform moving. You hop on it, and then you use those skills you semi-learned back in test chamber 15. You're moving along this platform, and there's walls and other things blocking your way. So you have to press a button to reveal this way for a second, and then portal over to it. Then you have to avoid this infinite energy pellet, and then you just have to get through this random wall here. It's going super slow, making sure you used up all of your portals, and it's building suspense to the plot twist. You finally reach the end with the promise of a certain surprise I'm sure you're all aware of. But then you look over as the music swells, which isn't common for this, as of now, slow-paced game. And it is revealed. You're being slowly lowered into a pit of fire, as your purpose has been fulfilled. What's amazing is that this has actually been foreshadowed all over the game.
As part of a previously mentioned required test protocol, we can no longer lie to you. When the testing is over, you will be missed. The Enrichment Center is required to remind you that you will be baked.
It's a really good twist, and it's delivered really well. But guess what? I'm a dick. GLaDOS describes the heat as 4,000 degrees Kelvin. And I think I should mention it here. It's just 4,000 Kelvin. Anyway, this is where you put your skills that you just learned to the test. You aren't being babied anymore. Well, somewhat. You escape away from this furnace, as the rest of the game plays out as an escape sequence.
What are you doing? Stop it. We are pleased that you made it through the final challenge where we pretended we were going to murder you. We are very happy for your success. We are throwing a party in honor of your tremendous success. Place the device on the ground and lie on your stomach with your arms at your sides. A party associate will arrive shortly to collect you for your party. Make no further attempt to leave the testing area. Assume the party escort submission position or you will miss the party.
Oh, I really have to read this all out, don't I? Okay then. So let me just say that this segment kind of deserves some trimming. Test Chamber 17 and 18 also could have gotten some trimming, but I'll let it slide because it's not that long of a game, so it's not too annoying. Anyway, you start by launching yourself onto this platform. Then you get up these stairs for the portal because the stairs break. Then you walk through this hallway and go through this door from this portal until you come across this room. And yes, I'm going to be describing the entirety of the escape sequence because it's really just reinforcing what you've learned. Other than the tests after Chamber 12, this is kind of the payoff of what you've been learning throughout the entire game. Anyway, in the hallway that we're in, one side leads to some observation rooms from previous tests you've played. Now you know those glass window type things you've been seeing all this time. You can also go over here as well into this PowerPoint thing about how Aperture Science is in competition with Black Mesa, the Half-Life scientists. It's here that you realize that there isn't anybody around at all. It was normal for the actual game, but if you're out of the tests now, where is everyone? Well, I'll get back to that later. Let's continue. The environment is dismal and full of dark oranges and browns, which is kind of a complete shift to very sterile and white testing chambers of games past. This is why I said this in my FNAF VR video. Then you descend to what looks like a literal burner room, which gives me serious Portal 1 vibes due to the color and music. Anyway, you continue until you end up in a cube transportation tube thingy, which takes you back to one of the older tests. Test number 9. This was before you had the dual portal gun, and because you have access to both portals now, you can quickly escape this room because GLaDOS was not expecting any of this.
Okay, the test is over now. You win. Go back to the recovery annex for your cake. It was a fun test, and we're all impressed at how much you won. The test is over. Come back.
There's no elevator at the end of this test, and instead, more Aperture Science exploration. More navigating through tricky places with conveniently placed portal surfaces. I wish they would explain why a surface could have a portal on it and why another one can't, because here, it honestly just comes off as a plot contrivance. Also, after getting through this room, there's a load screen, and I know it has to be there, but it comes off as a complete pace breaker, and it happens 2 more times. Anyway, after load screen, you have to make it up to this room that this broken ladder leads to with the use of your portals and these random pushy thingies. Actually, most of this loaded area is working with these pushy thingies. The second part has you get up another platform with the helpful pushy thing, and then launch yourself to a higher up platform. Then you have to get to the other area of this place by getting to the top of this grid of pushy things, so you're high enough to see the floor of this high up area. Then get back to the bottom to go through the other portal to get in there. All of this is building on what you've learned throughout the game. Then you land on this pipe, which leads you to another pushy thingy you have to get onto, so you portal above it and jump through the other portal that hopefully gets you on top of the pipe, where you come across another loading screen. And it's here that you realize through all of this, you keep finding little vents that lead to more Ratman dens. Now, I won't go into it here because honestly, it's more of a Portal 2 thing, so if anyone actually cares enough to want a Portal 2 episode, then tell me down below. Also, this has nothing to do with anything, but the Sonic movie came out today. At least today. This should be uploading, the 4th of February. Anyway, after the loading screen, you're ambushed by 3 turrets and rooms. They're in little rooms that slowly open up, so you have a chance to defeat them without being overpowered by them. And one of these little rooms has a little hole that you can use to get out of here. Once you do, you make it onto this little tube and eventually this platform. Then you can find another opening that leads to another small turret room. The door opens from the top and you discover that you can use this to launch yourself. Just do your momentum thing that you've been doing this whole game. When you get up to this platform, it leads you to this rocket launching robot guy. introducing another mechanic before the boss fight that will be used. From this little segment, you know that the Rocket Man locks onto your location and then launches a rocket at you. And because of the glass, you are safe from the first rocket. Then because of that, you move on to the second sheet of glass, then move on to another sheet of glass, and then you shoot it out a tube, which releases a cube for you. This is all telling you that the Rocket Man can shoot rockets through portals. Anyway, you grab the cube that's just been released from the pipe that you just blown up, and use it to climb up into this vent, which leads to this other place underneath it that kind of looks like a hallway. Then after another load screen, you cross this hallway disposal thingy and portal into this room. You appear to be in this weird mud pit that messes with your acceleration. Then when you get out of here, you realize how big this room is. Then a bunch of doors open, revealing a lot of turrets. Take care of them all and realize that there's some more slanted doors that you can use to launch yourself. So launch yourself up to this platform, defeat a few more turrets, then launch yourself up to another platform. This leads to another lab observation type area, similar to the observation rooms we've seen earlier. You can also find this window that shows a long hallway into a very, very big room. Also, when you're walking across this floor, it kind of sounds like you're walking with shoes on, despite the fact that you're barefoot. But whatever, I digress. This is the climactic moment of the game. You just spent the past few minutes trying to escape this evil rogue AI, and you kind of get the feeling that you're about to confront her. And walking through this hallway, you just get a gigantic scale of how big this room is and how small you are compared to all this. And then you see her, GLaDOS. She looks alright in this game. Also, the cores that fall off of her look terrible. This is where the visuals fall a little short for me. It's a good thing it doesn't matter in this game about puzzle solving. Now is the time where we get into the minimal story of this game. But first, this TV with the flashing images always creeps me out. Like you're looking at it and any moment it could show like snuff images or something. Just look at it. Tell me that wouldn't be out of the question. Anyway, I digress. GLaDOS says that she has a surprise for you, which we assume is murder, but is interrupted by a core that falls off of her body. She has no idea what it is, and you have no idea what it is, and you eventually find another incinerator in this room, and then get the idea to burn GLaDOS' weird thing that fell off, while she keeps telling you to stop.
I wouldn't bother with that thing. My guess is that touching it will just make your life even worse, somehow. Where are you taking that thing? I don't want to tell you your business, but if it were me, I'd leave that thing alone.
And then once you incinerate it, shit hits the fan.
You're kidding me. Did you just stuff that aperture science thing, we don't know what it does, into an aperture science emergency intelligence incinerator? That has got to be the dumbest thing that— Whoa. Good news. I figured out what that thing you just incinerated did. It was a morality core they installed after I flooded the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin to make me stop flooding the enrichment center with a deadly neurotoxin. So get comfortable while I warm up the neurotoxin emitters.
GLaDOS has now returned to her original form, a free-thinking AI who killed everyone in Aperture Science with a deadly neurotoxin. Everyone besides the mysterious Ratman, the guy who's been making all the dents you found throughout the game, and you. Now it's time for you to get revenge on this rogue computer for making you burn your friend and go through all these crappy tests. Well, I mean, in the context of the game. In real life, they're really well-designed tests that are really fun. But whatever. Kill her. Like everything else in this game, it's a puzzle-based boss fight. You have a limited amount of time to kill GLaDOS before you die from neurotoxin poisoning. However, the whole room is full of portal surfaces, and GLaDOS sent a leather rocket-launching robot. So you can use him to launch rockets at GLaDOS, which knocks off her cores. There's the Curious Core.
The catalytic cracking unit. It makes shapes for orphans. Nice job breaking it, hero. What did I ever do to you?
The Bacon Core.
I just like to point out that you were given every opportunity to succeed. There was even going to be a party for you. A big party that all your friends who don't have any other friends, because—
That's it.
and the angry core.
Going on a clear Milky Way. You were back in here. I had an infinite capacity for knowledge. And so your whole plan for building some supercomputer. That's nice.
The first core lands on these pipes, so you have to portal up there and incinerate it. The second one lands up high on this glass platform, so you have to launch yourself up there. And the final core is just suspended in midair for some reason, so you have to launch yourself to grab that one too. You're doing this while GLaDOS says some pretty hilarious boss lines.
Neurotoxin. So deadly. Joking.
I'm kidding.
When I said deadly neurotoxin, the deadly was in massive sarcasm quotes. I could take a bath in this stuff, put it on cereal, rub it right into my eyes. Honestly, it's not deadly at all.
To me.
Well then, the last thing you want to do is hurt me. I have your brain scanned and permanently backed up in case something terrible happens to you. Which it's just about to. Don't believe me? Here, I'll put you on. That's you. That's how dumb you sound. You've been wrong about every single thing you've ever done, including this thing. You're not smart. You're not a scientist. You're not a doctor. You're not even a full-time employee. Where did your life go so wrong?
What you have to do is you have to put a portal above the incinerator and then put a portal near the button that opens the incinerator. Then when you press the button and open the incinerator, drop the core in, and that's one hit done to GLaDOS. As customary for pretty much anything in media whatsoever, it works in threes, discarding the first core, which is kind of just reteaching you how the mechanics work. Burn the ball and GLaDOS gets destroyed. I do not know how or why, but whatever. Gravity starts shifting as this gigantic computer gets destroyed. And then you appear outside the facility and... ooh. That's rough. In the original Orange Box release, it just ended like this, fading to black. However, when they announced Portal 2, they patched this ending a bit, with you being pulled back into the facility by some random robot. And then we get one final sweeping shot of the facility until we land into this room with this baked good known as Black Forest. In another companion cube, the spheres in the background light up as a robotic hand comes down to put out the candle. Then we get the credits. Wow, what a great game, right? It carefully walks you through all the mechanics of the game without outright telling you what to do, besides a few parts. And it's done with its excellent level design. It's a really tightly designed game. On top of that, the graphics work for what they go for, the music adds to the atmosphere, the writing is fantastically funny, and it's just a really good game that was ripe for expansion. Now, before we stop, I want to take a look at some extra stuff about the game. Like, for example, the trailer and the bonus stuff, just so we know that we've gone through everything involving this game. First of all, the trailer looks a lot better than the actual game. The shading, colors, or I guess lack thereof. I'm assuming the whole trailer is pre-rendered because it just looks so different. Something else to note here is that the turrets sound completely different, and GLaDOS sounds slightly different. She's also still really funny.
Certain objects may be vital to your success. If at first you don't succeed, you fail.
Also, this trailer spoils a surprising amount of stuff about the game, like the fiery death you were supposed to suffer, and exploring the behind the scenes of Aperture. And also, we can see which tests are which now that we just went through the entire game.
Goodbye. This next test is impossible.
Another thing to note is that the fizzlers look a lot more electronic. Some of the effects look different too, like the fire and the portals themselves. The buttons and visible doors also lack texture at this point. Also, some of the tests look different, as in terms of their design. First of all, these two example tests were clearly just made for the trailer, and the person playing them, or more likely the person animating them, didn't even put the portal where it was supposed to go. Someone intentionally designed it that way, and they didn't even go for it. Also, this chamber of what I assume is Test 12 looks a bit different, as this cube and ditch was not put there in the original test. Also, in the showcase of Test 13, there's this random blue thing you can see in the window. Now, one final thing. We have to talk about the bonus maps. No, I'm not talking about the extra levels from Still Alive or Flash Game or whatever this is. That's going to be its own video, as it has a whole bunch of history behind it. No, we're going to be talking about the bonus maps on the regular Steam version of Portal. First, the advanced maps. These are versions of the levels after Test Chamber 12, aka after the tutorial, with different and more challenging level design. Now, we've already talked about these levels before, so I'll just go over the differences. Test 13 only has one cube in the room past the door, and the floor is completely comprised of goo. Test 14 has less portal surfaces, like in front of the platform, and the wall you usually launch off of to get the cube. Also, there's no platforms in this room to get the pellet, but I never used them, so In Test 15, you need to fall on an infinite portal thing and launch yourself across to the other side. And there's an added fizzler in the energy pellet part, so you need to place more portals. This room no longer has stairs, so you need to use a portal to get up there. Then you put a portal where you have to launch yourself, then put a portal on the roof, and then fall through the portal, then portal yourself on the floor, and then launch yourself to the other room. The second energy pellet puzzle has this added panel to the side of it. The platforms move a lot faster in the hallway. And in the final energy pellet puzzle, there's no way to launch yourself up, and there's little portal surfaces in the rooms with the buttons, so you have to quickly run across and then shoot the energy pellet into the room with the containment thingy. Test 16 is no different besides the fact that the turrets are invincible now, and you have to use the cubes to block yourself from their fire. Test 17 is the same besides the fact that the companion cube is now a ball. Also, the pellet tests have been redesigned. Finally, Test 18 has less portal surfaces, and the turret room has no pellets, so you have to take out the turrets up close and personal by launching yourself to their platform. So those were the advanced maps. They're pretty good if you want to squeeze some extra challenge and gameplay out of this game. Now, what do I think about the challenge maps? Meh. The least portals and timed ones are okay, but I don't really see the point of the least steps taken. That one to me is pretty dumb and unnecessary. I can see the first two. Portal with least amount of portals. Har har. In a time travel, that's normal for any game. You want to complete it as fast as possible if you've played it more than one time. But why least steps? I can see why they dropped it in Portal 2. And that's Portal. It's fantastic, tightly designed, excellently written, and is extremely smart. And they've managed to make a game that's pretty much 75% tutorial, super fun and replayable. At least for me. You should definitely go get it if you don't have it already. It's like $10 on Steam. This game was ripe for expansion. After all, this game is, like I said earlier, pretty much 75% tutorial. So obviously there'd be a sequel, right? Right? The sequel never came out until 4 years later. Hey, wait a minute. I just realized something. I went through this entire long as hell Portal video, and not once did I mention
Here, I'll put you on.
Spoopy Spaghetti.
That's you. That's how dumb you sound.